Hello, everybody. I'm Glenn Crooks, English radio commentator for New York City FC. My pleasure today to be able on this beautiful day. Some are calling it too hot. I think it's nice out here. I'm at the Etihad City Football Academy, the training grounds for New York City FC. They concluded their training about an hour ago, kicked off at 11 a.m. Eastern. Sometimes they'll go a little bit earlier. In discussing with Ronnie Dyla, we did our pregame show today and asked him about some things, including training. And sometimes on a day like this, he said they'll start at 10, to maybe beat the heat a little bit. But then he said, how much heat do we beat? And we lose an hour of sleep. So the conclusion was today in these hot, humid conditions in New York, New York City trained from 11 till about 12:20. Had to do it in shorter spurts, things like that. As you could possibly read in this lower third, if you are watching this, some of the news to come out of here regarding Eber and Tylus Magno. Eber still training on the side, and Ronnie Dyla classified his reemergence on the first team competing to still be a month or two away. So there's no inevitability to the return of Eber. And then Tylus Magno, he arrived from Brazil with a bit of a knee issue. He admitted that when he arrived, said he was not at 100%, was not playing up to the capability that he had hoped. New York City treated it, deemed him available to play over a number of minutes as a reserve, but they're shutting him down now. They want that knee to be 100%. So that's a conclusion that the medical staff and the technical staff came to regarding Tylus Magno. The rest of the club is apparently healthy. Gideon Zelalem, somebody tweeted at me to ask about Zelalem. He was still on the side as well, but apparently he's very close to coming back as well. But the key thing to understand is Eber out for at least a month or so, a month or two, and Tylus Magno unavailable going into this Columbus game. It's New York City FC at Columbus at the new Crooks Stadium, and that's coming up on Saturday. Airtime on our English and Spanish commentary, 7:15 for the pregame show. And speaking of Spanish commentary, let's bring him in. Roberto.
Hey, how's it going? I made it home.
Can you hear me?
By the way, Ariel is not happy with you because the fact that I had to make it here in record time, and I'm very happy that they were not allowed aids, and I was able to put my car through the paces. But the sacrifice I had to make was that I had to take Ariel here, and he had to get a cab home. Normally, I would drop him home, but he understands. He's as long as it was for you. He seemed to understand that it was okay. He wouldn't do it for me, but for you, he would do it. I mean,
Ariel loves
very
it.
nice of him.
I treat Ariel better than anyone here.
Yeah. Well, Ariel, as you should, because he is one of the nicest human beings that Earth has ever produced. So you should.
I do want to ask Ariel Hudas, who is your broadcast partner on the radio commentary. He spent time in Argentina, and I know he has a real feel for what's going on down there. I'm just curious as to Messi getting his win, Messi versus Maradona, because that always seems to be a thing there. I'm just wondering, what the public sentiment is regarding Messi, and because you heard a lot about Maradona heading into it. He's won a World Cup. I just not sure what the Argentinians are thinking.
If we had a podcast in English, about New York City that we can invite them on, that might be part of the solution. We could call it like Soccer in the City or something like that, and we could have them on and we could ask them those things. I just a thought.
Be quiet, Roberto. Be quiet. So
he's been a guest before, so we can do this.
So before we dig into this, we're going to mention this very briefly at the top. We know that there's the season ticket holders are a little bit up in arms, and over some things that transpired within the last 24 hours. But what I want to say about it is, at first blush and looking at the specifics of it and looking at some of the commentary on it, you can't blame season ticket holders for being disgruntled, being upset, yourself included. But we're going to keep this brief because, first of all, I don't have enough detail. But beyond that, I think, if there's a response, the response should be directly to whoever you deal with for tickets, and make your case heard. And I'm telling you, when the voices are heard, and we've seen this over the course of the last year and a half, the voices being heard sometimes elicits a response, maybe a favorable response. So whatever we think about this, I think it would have been remiss for us not to at least bring it up, because we know a lot of people who follow us have suggested that this should be at the top of the table of our topic. But I'm on the sporting side more than anything. That's where I'm going next. But I wanted to bring it up at the top.
And I agree. We really cover the sporting side. I'm a season ticket holder as well, and I feel the pain that the other season ticket holders have, and I definitely think that the best course of action is basically letting the club know how you feel. And yes, you can complain on social media, but I would also let either through your ticket, or if you have, other people that you can complain to within the club, then absolutely let them know how you feel about that. I mean, if you're okay with it, fine. If you're not okay with it, fine. I fully get it. But wherever you stand, let the team know. And I understand everybody, using social media to be able to bend. But, it is what it is, and people will have to make their decisions, whatever they want to do, and they have every right to make their decisions, whatever that is.
All right. Appreciate your input on that, Roberto, as a season ticket holder. So what did we learn up here? I kicked off by talking about Eber and Tylus Magno. So Eber, he's still a month or two away. But there were several other topics, obviously, here. We got a chance to watch the team train. The other Brazilian, the third one, Thiago, and Ronnie Dyla is not yet certain how he's going to use him on Saturday, but certainly he'll now be at least a candidate to be in the 11, I would think, based on his impact coming in as a reserve. I mean, every time he's come in, something really positive has happened. So sometimes when you look at it just in a simple fashion, it's like, well, if he could do that for 60 or 70 minutes, you've got a better chance to get a couple. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And with the amount of players that you have on the wing and the amount of talent that you have on the wing, you're going to have to rotate. I don't think anybody really has a position locked down, and I think you're going to have rotation for all those players, especially on the left wing. I think if anybody has a position locked down of the 3 or 4 guys, it's Jesus Medina. And then, the other guys are going to have to fight for minutes, and it's going to be a healthy competition. I don't even think Medina, it really would be.
He didn't start the last match.
Right, exactly. Right. So, opponent related, rest related, 3 games in 8 days related. You're going to see a lot of guys be moving in and out of the starting lineup, and we've seen guys like Izzy be unhappy with the fact that he doesn't start, but he's part of the competition, and he's going to have to deal with it. And he's going to have to deal with it physically. He's going to have to deal with it mentally. I had a long conversation today, as you were speaking to Ronnie. I was speaking to Efrain Juarez, and we talked about Tati. We talked about Tati Castellanos, and we talked about the fact that Tati hasn't scored since he signed his big contract. But the message that Ronnie sent the last time we spoke to him, and the message that Efrain sent to me, we talked about, and it's in our pregame show, is how happy they are with Tati Castellanos. The fact that he's doing absolutely everything that they're asking him to do, that he improves every single game. Tactically, he is so much more aware of where he has to be and where they want him to be. And the coaching staff could not be happier with Tati Castellanos. So they feel the goals are going to come. Right now, it's a rut. He seems to be making every goalie star of the week, every week. But they really, really feel, as a coaching staff, that Tati Castellanos is going to absolutely break out of this, and that he's going to score a ton of goals. He's doing everything and anything that they've asked him to do, and they're thrilled with him.
All right. I think thrilled is probably an overstatement.
No, it's not. It's not an overstatement. I'm serious. Well, I'm telling you what they said, not what you think, and that's fine. I mean, I'm telling you what he told me.
Listen.
Now, if you think that they're not thrilled, well, that's a different story. I can only
I'm
go by
telling,
what they
I'm
say.
telling you, the word thrilled, whether Efrain used that with you or not, is not how they feel about their striker who can't score goals. And Roberto, as you know, this is not the first time look. I love Tati. You love Tati. Know what he works hard. You know what you're getting every day. As a coach, one of the most important things about a player that's in your program is no surprises. You know what you're getting every day from them, the consistency. But we've heard it more than once that he's ready to break out of it. He's ready to be a 20-goal scorer in MLS. We've heard it. We've heard it. We've heard it. We certainly hope it happens. The word thrilled cannot be part of the lexicon when your striker hasn't scored since he got his fourth goal early on in the season. Sorry, you're not thrilled.
Yeah.
You're
All right. All right.
all
He's
right.
doing everything that they're asking them and more. So that's what that's what they're telling me.
No,
And it's not
I'm
like I'm
sure. Except
parroting. It's not like I'm like some parrot of the team that I'm
I'm
like
not.
all
I'm not
in and
saying you are.
embedded and all, and
I'm not
all
saying
I
you are,
do is just
Roberto.
repeat. I'm not a lemming here, Glenn.
A lemming. Thank you, Maddie Lawrence. Hey, so I spoke to Ronnie. We didn't talk about Tati, but we talked about
Oh,
a couple of other players, Luis Barraza and James Sands in particular, both very much U.S. men's national team related. One playing for the U.S. men, and then one playing because Sean Johnson is with the U.S. men, the number one for New York City FC. So Luis Barraza, Ronnie said, look, he really did everything that they expected. He said that he's on fire right now in terms of getting his first win. When you think about it, so Luis Barraza had the match against Tigres, lost 4-0. That was his debut with New York City FC. He had his MLS debut in the 2-1 loss to Montreal, their last match. He had 3 games on loan with Oakland, but they didn't win any of those games. So as a professional goalkeeper, he doesn't have a win yet. So
it's not since
he's a little
Marquette.
he's he's pretty fired up. And Roberto, I think you do know this, but at 5:00 today, I've got a Zoom interview with Luis. Once he gets home and settled in, and I get back there too, that's going to be part of our halftime. I'll run some clips on social media too. He's a great guy, but we're well. I'm
So
gonna get the lowdown as to how fired. He's normally just a nice, soft-spoken young man, but maybe I can get a little fire and brimstone out of him.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely try. He's such a good guy. So did Ronnie? Did you ask him specifically about the second goal? Obviously, the first one's a penalty kick. The second one, he gets, he comes out and winds up getting rounded by Kyoto. Did you ask Ronnie about that and what he thought about it?
No, I didn't ask about the specifics of the goal. What I did ask about to Ronnie about that game is his post-game presser when he held himself accountable for making substitutions late, where they switched out of a back 3 to a back 4, which enabled Kyoto to get him behind and then score the game winner. But in retrospect, as he felt more about it, and in truth, I would say, I think he's being a little more truthful now too. Is that look, we were going for the win. It's 1-1. We're trying to get the 3 point. I know you posted that too, and I think we've all said it. Is that how could you fault a guy for putting Tylus on, Tiago on, a more attacking group to try to get the 3 points against the team that you're better than?
So here's my situation on that. I was really taken aback by what he said because I thought that the mentality that he had by doing that switch, by at least the theory of what he was trying to do, I think that was the absolute correct thing to do. Now that it didn't work out, fine. He didn't exactly have many other options to be able to replace the Collins spot, although, at that point, Ibeaga was pretty much done. So he had to put Morales there, which, although we haven't seen him in many games in that position, he had trained all week at that position, and we had seen him training in that position, and we sort of expected him to start there, and he didn't start there. But I was sort of taken aback because I thought that the mentality that Ronnie had during the game was the correct one. Now that it didn't work for whatever the reasons, and maybe because he didn't have the right personnel there or it wasn't available. But at the end of the day, I thought he made the right decision. And I'm glad that he's thought about this further now and that he's come around and he thinks now that he did the right thing. Because I thought he was 100% spot on to say, hey, we're the more talented team. We've got to go for this. We got to win the game.
I think the more, and I didn't bring this up, but the higher difficulty on this and that decision, and maybe where he's critical of himself, is why not just go with two center backs that have played together a little bit, and that would be Ibiaga and Chanot, even though you don't have a left-footed Ibiaga at the left central back position. But I think he has a high regard for Alfredo Morales as a soccer player, so his decision to leave him in, probably not shocking. Then James Sands, who, let's see what happens tonight, right? U.S. men's national team gets another Gold Cup match after I don't know how you would rate the opening match, but beat Haiti 1-0. But as far as James Sands is concerned, Greg Berhalter, his directions to Sands going in is lock up this win for us. And a lot of that has to do with the ability for James Sands to make passes out of the back. And then they went to 100%. The three-back system where he's very comfortable in the middle. So it really worked out well for him.
It worked out well. It worked out well for him because they put him in a comfortable position. They gave him a lot of responsibility. And what I loved about James Sands was how well he handled that responsibility and how much more solid the U.S. defense was there. And especially, one of the biggest criticisms I have of the U.S. national team is the amount of turnovers that team produces in big games and big spots against, either decent opponents or not decent opponents. But, the ability to be able to hold the ball when you have a lead and try to, kill the clock, okay, is so important. And the best offense you have or the best defense you have is holding the ball, having a good offense. And if James Sands is going to be able to be that guy who's going to complete a very, very high percentage of passes, especially coming out of the back, that gives you more of the ball, and that gives you a better chance of winning. And I think that James Sands, I don't think he could have had a better debut for the U.S. national team. And I think that now that Greg Berhalter got a chance to see this firsthand, I hope that increases his trust level with James Sands and now gives him more opportunities to see what he can do. Because for my money, James Sands has got to be playing next to Brooks in the middle of the U.S. defense for the first team. Because I don't know of any other defenseman right now that plays better than he does, especially with the ball, and he defends very, very well.
Cup anyway.
Sorry, man. I was just pulling this up out of the blue. So let's listen to James, because my question was, Roberto, didn't mean to cut you off. That was an accident. But there's James. And but I wanted to ask about he played three at the back. There was a change of shape. And now this team has no wingers, pretty much. This U.S. men's national team. They have no wingers. Paul Arriola got hurt too. So if they go to three at the back, play 3-5-2, 3-4-3, probably won't unless those guys are in the half spaces. A 3-5-2 would be more likely with a guy like Daryl Dike in there with Zardes or whoever wants to do it. So here, let's listen to James.
So do you see your future in this Gold Cup anyway? Maybe predicated on that shape?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be able to switch between systems. I know we do that in New York pretty well, and I think with the national team being versatile about being a back four, back five, will really help the team going forward. And, obviously I think when we're in a back five, there's a role for me there in the middle of that. But, at this point, it's just about, trying to get on the field when I can and, make sure I'm being a good teammate and, helping the guys around me. For sure, under Dome, we did it a lot. And, I developed a lot as a player, and, especially last year under Ronnie, a bit this year as well. He's really been, pushing me to kind of take control of games and, set the tempo, stuff like that. And, those are all things that the middle center back in a back three has complete control over. So I definitely think my time in New York has, helped me get ready for the national team. Mostly up until this point, I played in a back four, which is good. I've done it with New York. And then, we hadn't worked on it too much in training, but the game last night, I showed that we can, easily transition into a back five. And I think that just helps my case for more minutes. So, I think that was a real positive from last night.
Well, there you hear it right from the horse's mouth, James Sands. And, I think he sees that, back three is something that's feasible during the Gold Cup and how comfortable he is there. So yeah, so there it was. Good stuff.
Well, the good news with Ariola is
Sean
that
Johnson.
it's nothing
I don't
serious.
know. I don't.
I'm sorry, Glenn. I was just going to say that the good news with Paul Arriola is that it's not a serious injury, and although he's not going to play tonight, he's out for tonight. He will be available for further games. We don't know starting when, and I believe there's another. I think Reggie Cannon is the other guy who's out as well for the U.S. national team. So we'll see what kind of a lineup that they wind up putting out there. But I mean, it looks like that there's a good chance for a three in the back, especially because you don't have Arriola. They didn't get a really good game from why am I blanking on his name now? Ex New York City FC player Jonathan Lewis. So they didn't get a good game from Lewis. So I mean, do you give Lewis another chance and hopefully he plays out of it, or do you not start him and then you bring him in if you want to change shape later on? So we'll see how that goes. What we do know is that Canada handily beat Martinique when they played them. So one has to expect that the United States will find that this might be the easiest game of the group, so they better win it. The one thing that I loved about the U.S. and was very different from, let's say, Mexico. Mexico totally dominated Trinidad in their first game, but couldn't find a goal and wound up settling for a tie. The U.S. didn't play very well against Haiti, and Haiti was a handful for them, but they found a way to win the game, right? Sam Vines winds up with the winning goal for the U.S. So, that's good. When you play poorly and still manage to win, I always find that to be a good, positive sign. But obviously, you want the team to play well, and this is a good chance for them to get their act together against Martinique.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect Sean Johnson maybe not to get any games ahead of Matt Turner. I mean, Greg Berhalter really needs, I think in his mind, needs to get a really good look at Matt Turner. And then Daryl Dike. He needs to get a great look at Daryl Dike. And that's why I think three at the back is so possible, because we've seen Berhalter and his affection for Jazzy Zardes. And he likes Zardes as a player, not just as a person, but he thinks he contributes on a high level. So we might see those two together at the start tonight too. So that's going to be, I'm looking forward to the match. It's a match they should win handily, like 2-3, 4-0. I mean, let's face it. But until they get totally connected, maybe that's not something, or maybe that's not the way we're going to see it go yet in this Gold Cup. So that's tonight. Back to New York City FC. What else can we talked about Columbus. So the last Columbus match, of course, it was the Lucas Zelarayan goal. So Ronnie Dyler made it quite simple. It's just like, let's not commit any fouls in an area where you can score. But I mean, you do remind your team of that, because, are those fouls silly fouls? I tell you, when you have a guy a weapon like that, Giovinco, when he was with Toronto, make them do it during the run of play. If a guy runs past you, don't take him down. Let him go on goal and try to beat the keeper. Because when you have these guys shooting from 25 yards and in, I always said it with Giovinco, I think it's pretty much the same with Zelarayan. It's like a penalty. It's like a spot kick for these guys.
So do me a favor, when you speak to Luis Barraza today, ask him about his philosophy on walls and how many from that distance, and what his philosophy on walls is.
I couldn't bring that up.
I'm serious because it's got to be different.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's a team thing. I mean, goalkeepers can't shoot. I mean, they do that with the goalkeeper coach, Rob Vertughian, and they set it up. And, Ronnie's the head coach, but, last time I talked to him about walls, he said that's outside of his domain. That's Rob and the keepers. So I'm sure they're all on the a similar platform when it comes to how they're going to construct the wall. Hey, how about what's going on?
Because we did see that they did change, because it was another free kick from a similar distance, and they had, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 on the wall, but it definitely wasn't just 2. Because remember, Sean Johnson had 2 guys on the wall. I guess he was was not expecting a shot from that distance, but that
apparently not. To me, I thought there was a lack of organization. It seemed like there was some scrambling going on, and we all recall that 5'3" Maximo Morales was in the wall. He was one of the 2 in the wall, and the ball pretty much directly went over his head. And into the goal.
Even if you had a 6-footer on the wall, he wasn't reaching that.
So did you see what's going on in Atlanta? So up in Toronto, you had Chris Armas. He's been dismissed. Prior to that, though, there was a close to 2-month period where Josie Altidore was training on the side. Even though he was fit, he was kept out of the team, essentially, by everything we know, by the head coach, Chris Armas. And it was a really, really delicate situation, which Ali Curtis said was going to be resolved during the international break. It wasn't. The way it got resolved, Armas got the boot, and now Altidore is back in full training with a former New York City assistant, Javier Perez, who is taking charge on an interim basis for Toronto. But did you see what's going on in Atlanta?
I'm just starting to see it now.
Gabriel Heinz, the head coach for Atlanta. Let me just say, Joseph Martinez, fully fit, training on the side, coach's decision. Heinz has said, I know why. He knows why, and that's all he said. Something to that effect. I know I'm paraphrasing, but how about that? So a little dispute between Heinz and Martinez, no question about it. The guy's healthy. They need a goal scorer, and he's not in the team. Wow.
Wow. That is crazy, especially for Atlanta, which they desperately need goal scorer because they can't live with Cubo Torres on top. I mean, he's just he's not MLS level. There's no doubt. I mean, he hasn't been for a long, long time. And I mean, he went there thinking basically he was going to be a spot replacement and sort of like an assistant coach in training, even though he's only 28 years old. But he's not the answer. Jürgen Damm hasn't been the answer from the wing. He hasn't been able to score much for them. And they're desperate to get goals scored. And when you're having a dispute with your star player, the league star player, we're talking about one of the top 3 guys in the entire league, then it's a big story because you've got Vela, Chicharito, and you have Joseph Martinez. Those are your guys, more so than Higuain. Not even close.
Well, when your goal scorer is Cubo Torres, I mean, you need Joseph Martinez, man. I mean, that's that's the idea there. All right, Roberto. Well, and Felipe Cardenas was the first to break that story, so I want to give him credit.
Can you pronounce his name correctly?
Just say it to me then.
Cardenas.
Okay. Felipe Cardenas.
There you
I've
go.
spoken
Perfect.
to. How about Busio? Somebody asked him. So the Italian pronunciation apparently is Buzio. The American pronunciation is Busio. And someone asked him, "How do you want us to pronounce your name?" And he said, "I don't care." And he wouldn't specify. He said, "Well, everybody calls me Busio, so let's just go with that." Yeah. So I guess either is
that's
acceptable.
what he wants. That's fine. Right. It is acceptable.
My final comment, and then we got to get out of here, Roberto, is I hope he's starting at the holding midfield role because he was the player that stood out far and above all other players.
He changed the game
against Haiti, and
he changed the game for the U.S. national team once he came in.
There's 2 kinds of holding midfielders, right? There's the Alex Ring who destroys things. He can move the ball around a little bit, but that's not that's the kind of 6 Alex Ring is. That's the kind of 6 Alfredo Morales is. And then you have the 6s like when James Sands was in there, a guy who could really move the ball, still destroy things, but move the ball. Buzio is a playmaker, and that's what I like at a number 6. And I love twin 6s, one who destroys, one who playmakes. So as this thing continues to grow for Buzio, whether it's at Sporting KC and now with the U.S. men's national team, this guy I think he's going to be a vital cog in what happens moving forward. And I know that's just off of one game. It's not against Germany. It's not against France. But he's a soccer player, boys.
Yeah, he is. But he's played very well for Kansas City. So it's not like this is something surprising. If anybody's watched Sporting KC games, you see the importance that he has in the midfield. And, I mean, he's not long for this league because there's a lot of reports that has him attached to Venezia, that just went into first division in Italy, right? Serie A. So they've already gotten Tanner Tessman from FC Dallas, and it looks like they're looking for Gianluca Busio as well. So if that happens, then good luck to him. I just hope that it happens after Gold Cup. I wouldn't want to see him get signed down and then get pulled out of the national team because they really, really need him there. But if he's not there, then they got this guy James Sands that I heard is pretty damn decent too.
Damn. What time's the game? What time is the game?
9:30 tonight. 9:30 on Fox Sports 1 and TUDN in Spanish, maybe Unimas as well. So when's our game?
Our game is Saturday, 7:15. Even though if you kick off a little sooner than that on your pregame, we'll see.
I might.
That's the NYCFC network, nycfc.com/radio. I'm in Orangeburg. Roberto was here, but he motored back home, and we're happy to share some things with you. I suppose the news that has come out of training more than anything is because everyone wonders about Eber. He looks great, but he's still training on the side. He does the rondos at the beginning of practice, the kind of their warm-up thing without contact. So he's not involved in any contact yet, and Ronnie Tylus said a month or two away still for Eber. So we'll look forward to that return, and we'll keep monitoring his progress as we come up here for training. Roberto, thanks for joining in.
Well, you're welcome. I just want to say that reminder that you guys, an hour before game time, you have your Facebook Live on the NYCFC page, and that's going to be in English. 90 minutes before game time, Ariel Judas and I do a Facebook Live on my page, which is at Roberto Abramowitz Oficial. So that's on Facebook, and we share it on social media everywhere. So you'll be able to find it, tune in, ask questions, etc., etc. And then Glenn is going to go 15 minutes before the game, right, at 7:15. We're going to go at 7:10 because I've got interviews not only with Efrain Juarez, but I also have Alex Callens, who came back from a sensational stint with the Peruvian national team in Copa America. They finished in 4th place, and he wound up winning himself a starting job on that defense, and he's a big reason why they did as well as they did. So I'm really, really happy for Alex Callens.
Awesome moment for him. He's been one of the best central defenders in the league since he arrived, so I'm glad you got a chance to speak to him. So that's coming up on Saturday, and we're going on the road for the first time since I don't remember. I haven't calculated it yet, but we're hopping on the charter with the team tomorrow, and
yes,
so we'll be in Columbus, and carrying a game live from the stadium is there's nothing like it. It's a privilege we have, and we want to thank the club and MLS for making it possible through all the COVID mandates. We've passed a hurdle, and we'll see where it goes next. But we will be in Columbus, so we'll see you then.
2000, absolutely. 2019 for Spanish. I mean, we haven't been on the road for Spanish, especially anything that took an airplane ride away. So we're really, really happy that we're going to be able to do this. And more so than anything else is because the difference in quality of the broadcast is palpable when you're in a stadium versus doing it from either a studio or our living room, which is quite comfortable, mind you, but it's not exactly the same.
I like my basement with Bob Marley over my right shoulder, man. He's my spiritual leader. And
except when the feed goes out.
He's playing footy. Well, that's all right. Maybe he had something to do with it. All right, Roberto, peace. And we'll see you all soon and talk to you all soon. Thanks very much.